everyone. Hello, good evening, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. And the shocking truth about contracts. This is really good examples of what we are being shown here with the Elon Musk and President Trump, and also the committee, for example, the DOGE committee. And in today's live, I'm going to be discussing with you the shocking truth about what contracts can actually do. They can do good, but they can also do bad as well. I'm going to share something with you. Now, when I had my contracts, I've been in healthcare for over 35 years. And I've had my own healthcare businesses, for example. And one of the shocking truths that I experienced is that I had two people come into my business to really threaten me because they wanted the contracts that I had. And it's a shocking truth that when it comes to these types of things can get really ugly. And I'm speaking from my own personal point of view. I have been there. Yes, I've been through 3 recessions, and it can turn ugly if someone wants something so badly from you that they will do anything to destroy you, for example. And that to me is part of a shocking truth about having contracts that people are after, for example. Now imagine you don't expect 2 men to come into your office building when everyone had gone home in the evening. 2 men walked into my office and told me that they are after my contracts and that they are going to do everything in their power to get it from me. That is literally the truth. The only person I told was my husband of 28 years. I didn't tell anybody else. And you know what? It was quite scary. I was dealing with care. Care, for goodness sakes. Care. You do not expect that to happen. So I'm here today to bust this, that there is a lot of things wrong. And when you've got contracts and people want your contracts, and you've got big corporations, and this was a big corporation in the UK that came after me because they wanted my contracts. They said they are going to literally destroy me. And this is the first time that I'm talking about this publicly on YouTube. Can you believe this? But because I'm seeing all of these things happening in America, it's kind of brought it back to me. So this is the reason why I'm here today. And I'm going to, it can be lovely, don't get me wrong. It can be lovely. But when you get to a certain level, people will do anything to get that, literally. So I'm going to just go through a few things. I'm not going to go into all of what happened with me, because I think that's another story for another day, because I tell you, it was not pretty. And like I said, the only person I told was my husband. And then my husband, he passed away now, but I remarried, for example. But at the time, he was like, right, I'm coming into the office every day. So he started to come into the office with me every day to make sure I was safe. Because to have your door, you think that you're safe. I didn't think to lock my door at night time, for example, in the building. And 2 men walked in and literally said that to me and gave me their business card. and said, call me when you're ready, because we're going to dominate this area. We're going to take these contracts off of you. We're going to do everything to make sure that you lose these contracts. So this can be a shocking truth of a contract. And I have heard of another client that this was very similar, that happened to them as well, but in a different way. So I'm going to go into a few things with you today, because I think we should be aware of how this can actually affect how people think about contracts. So I'm going to talk here with regards to, we've got the Elon Musk. He just got that $4 million cyber truck contract. So what is the real deal here, for example? So welcome to this week's YouTube Live, and tonight I'm going to be breaking down some of the moves that you can do to get contracts in an ethical way without a conflict of interest. But I'm also here to expose that having these large contracts can turn quite nasty, to be honest with you. You know, I didn't expect that to happen to me many years ago. You know, and like I said, the only person I told was my husband. I didn't even tell the councils that I had these contracts with. I didn't even tell the staff members. But the staff members at the time, they realized, because there was people coming into work for me that was actually from that particular care business, and I didn't know it until after these two men came in and basically threatened me, for example. But I'm going to go into this with the Elon Musk thing, okay? So it just seems that there's a lot of moves from Elon Musk and President Trump that are shaking up the government spending and business contracts and the global economy. From Musk having the 400 million Cybertruck deal, to government layoffs, conflicts of interest, allegedly, for example, data breaches, allegedly, and even this thing that we keep seeing in our news feed. I mean, you know, before all of this happened, I wasn't really watching the news very much, but I've started to. But now there's this thing where it's talking about an asteroid heading for the Earth in a decade. So there's a lot to unpack here. So are you ready? Let's dive into this, because I'm here to tell you what I've gathered from the research. But also I wanted to give you my own personal story to explain to you that contracts can become a real nasty game, basically. So let's get into it. So imagine, right? So Elon Musk, Tesla, for example, just secured a $400 million contract to supply armored Cybertrucks for government agencies. But this deal, it's raised eyebrows. And there's been critics, they're arguing about, when I say critics, law, for example, they're arguing, saying that it's a conflict of interest, while supporters say that this is Trump's defense modernization plan. Key questions to discuss here is this deal a smart defense investment, or could it be seen as a government favoritism? I'm just saying what I'm, hearing as well. Okay, so let's look at possibly how this leverage position could have happened. For example, the Department of Government Efficiency, known as DOGE, what does this really mean to business owners like you to help you to secure contracts, but also what does it mean to the public as well in America? Okay, I'm not here to go into debates about this. I'm trying to be real to you, as well as to talk about business contracts, for example. So in order to win contracts, to look at this, you must really understand the government spending priorities, and to look at whether you're in the right networks, for example. So usually when these contracts come about, they tell you how much they've got to spend, etc. I did a video earlier which is uploading, and that will be coming up shortly, where I talk about possible conflicts of interest. But also what I want to talk about is the government layoffs. There's so much going on this week that I can't just ignore it and not say anything, okay? So there's job losses, there's government layoffs. So there's no winners here. It just seems like people are losing. You know, federal employees protesting outside government buildings. And then there's the government efficiency plan. Musk and Trump are, slashing federal jobs, for example, with thousands of layoffs projected to be in the next 6 months. And also, some of the key questions here is who will be affected by these massive government layoffs? The people, for example. How will it impact business owners, investors, and job seekers, for example? Are we witnessing a massive shift towards AI and automation, replacing the federal workers? Is this what this is about? So let's prepare for AI-driven job disruptions and look at how we can stay ahead by leveraging our businesses, for example, so that we can be more efficient, but we still need the human touch. We cannot just have robots. Humans still need to be a part of this. We need communication. We need to be able to heal one another. That's why I've been doing videos, probably about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, about community, building a community, because it's so important. And I believe that the protesting is about oneness, community, coming together to say, we don't want this. And I know there's different sides, but, I'm just talking about what I'm seeing here and listening to in the news, as well as articles, as well as on YouTube. So when I was listening to some of the articles and the cases going on at the moment in America, where they talk about data breaches and national security risk. Now, these data breaches, these allegedly government data breaches, are really raising concerns about security risk. So the key questions is that we need to think about and discuss and talk about is how vulnerable is the US data with the team of Musk controlling this with AI and space communication, for example. It was talked about when I was listening to, I'm going to put the links here from the videos that I watched from the cases, for example, that's currently going. And I've been putting links in anyway. Could this lead to a national security crisis? What are the implications for businesses handling sensitive data? Well, you know, as business owners, that you need to have the correct policies and procedures in place, the correct structures, as well as the correct certifications, licenses, for example, for holding and handling sensitive data. And from the links that I'm going to put in here, that there has to be a process when it definitely becomes, when it's part of the US government, definitely. Someone really should be, according to what I was listening to, the gentleman said that, a minimum for a year working in the US government department and gone through security checks. And that means everything gets checked and approved before you even allow to delve into people's private information. So cybersecurity should be your top priority as a business, especially if you're possibly AI driven automation as well. That's something important, because when you're looking to apply for contracts, they want to know that you've got cyber security. They want to know that it's safe, that you're going to keep people's information safe, and it's not going to be put on social media or even access through a website, for example, your data. And now we've also got global tariffs and economic shakeup that's happening around the world. And I can't just not talk about this, because it's something that we're all affected by, for example. So the Trump administration is pushing new tariffs on multiple countries, aiming to boost US manufacturing. But could this backfire? I remember, if you're not aware of it, Donald Trump used to be like in The Apprentice, and I remember watching it in America, but I also remember watching it in the UK when it was Alan Sugar doing The Apprentice, you're fired, that type of thing. And it's strange how you can come from one sector and business and then suddenly into another business, for example. I'm just sort of on the fence with regards to that. But the key questions here is, how will these tariffs affect businesses relying on international suppliers? Could this trigger a trade war, making goods more expensive for consumers? We're seeing it already. So what industries stand to gain or lose from this tariff policy, for example? So some some will win because they're going to manufacture in their own country of where they are. So it's time to get back to how it used to be, for example. And then everyone just buys from their country, which I'm not saying it's a bad thing, for example. But there's also some supply chains that will require higher import cost as well, which will affect you, the consumer. Then there's the possibility of this Android threat that's, in 10 years' time, for example. But should NASA and the government be looking at this in more greater depth? And could they have prevented it from happening? I don't want to scare anybody, but I'm just reading about what's been going on over the last week, for example. Could this also lead to a new government contract for aerospace or defense companies, for example? What role does SpaceX and AI technology play in planetary defense, for example? So maybe looking at disaster proofing, for example. And I've already mentioned this from September last year about recession proofing your business, crisis planning, things like that. Crisis resilient industries could be a key to this long-term success. So I'd love to know what your thoughts are, and to think about positioning yourself in an industry that is benefiting from government contracts. Leverage AI and automation to stay ahead of job disruptions, for example. Be prepared for economic shifts. Our jobs are never guaranteed. So we got to think about, what would happen if I was to lose my job, for example? What would I do? So I just wanted to go through that with you, but I've also got some more to go through. So when you look at Donald Trump and Elon Musk, for example, they've got a real special relationship going on. It's very unique relationship that they've got, and they support one another. You saw, you may not have seen, but they did a interview. I watched it today, and they were very much together. And they were saying that they're not going to be, broken by what's happening. They're going to stick together, and bond, for example, back in one another. So their partnership, it really has sparked debates about the intersection of policies and innovation, highlighting how their combined influence can shape Americans' policies and market trends. So I believe what's going to happen here is that there's going to be some new laws, new policies, procedures, innovations. All of this is making people think around the world, because you don't want this to happen again, for example, from what I'm seeing. And I'm only going from what I'm seeing and what I've heard. This isn't this coming, like I definitely know this, that, and the other. This is just me talking about what I've been listening to. So you really need to understand that even the basics you've got to get to grips with if you're just starting out with contracts, that is, because it is a formal agreement between two or more parties, and either party, the terms and conditions in the transactions or the relationship, they play a crucial role in the business dealing. But there's responsibilities on both sides. It's not just a one-sided thing. A contract is two parties. There's commitment. Just like a marriage, you go into a contract. It's commitment from two people. So the parties hold each other accountable. And for entrepreneurs, it's essential for you to look at the contracts that you're looking at applying for and understanding every single aspect of the contract that you're applying for, because you could end up signing away something that you didn't even realize. Like if they mention, well, if this happens, will you do this? Like guarantee this. Do you have that agreement? Is that in there, for example? If you guarantee it, then you provide that until you've delivered, for example. So, like I said though, the shocking truth about contracts is there are some surprising facts that have shaped people's careers. So Musk, he's had contracts with government agencies, and he's had a lot of contracts, 20 billion worth of contract and counting. He wants to be a trillionaire. I've never heard of a trillionaire before, which will be like amazing, for example. But at what is that going to involve? What does that take to become a trillionaire? I don't know. Maybe there's a book out on how to become a trillionaire. I don't know. I don't have a clue. The most I know is up to 1 billion, for example, or multiple billions, but a trillionaire, I wouldn't be able to think at such a higher level as that, for example. So I mentioned in my video, which I'm going to upload, I talk about real estate, and it's important to look at the assets that you've got with these contracts, because you could have multiple contracts. It could be maybe one contract, but you could have like 5 or 6 contracts, but it all could be the same government. Like with me, I had multiple contracts with the same government. I think it was 4 or 5 contracts with the same government. And then recession hit. And it's like a domino effect. So with regards to, and I'm trying to give you some shocking facts with regards to contracts. If things go wrong, if you rely on one body, which I believe Elon Musk is relying on one body, the 20 billion, I believe majority of it is the government, for example. If something was to go wrong and then you lose, it's a domino effect. You would lose all of those contracts, one after the other. So when you have a business like that, how sellable is it? Because if you've got one contractor, for example, and you've got multiple contracts within that one contractor, i.e. the government, if they decide to pull the rug under you, then you've lost everything. You're back to square one. So this is why I always say, and this is the reason why I'm saying the shocking truth about contracts, is do not rely on one entity to give you your contracts. Don't think that you're secure because you've got government contracts, because things can happen. The public purse can change, recession could hit, and then they could end up either reducing that contract by half or stopping it altogether, which is what happened to me. It got reduced by half, for example. It's the recession. I understand that. It was 2008. It was a tough time, for example. But what I want to share with you is the shocking truth of contracts, that don't rely on just one entity. Make sure that you've got an even spread, so that you've got, like, say, a third is government contracts, a third is private contracts, and a third is another type of contract from another entity, so that if one of them goes, you've still got income coming in and you're still fine. Yeah, so this is the reason why I'm talking to you today about how having these contracts can actually cause a problem for you. So make sure that you don't rely on just one person or government organization or one entity to give you those contracts, because you could have a group of the same company and then suddenly they stop. Like what we're going to be seeing here is that there's things that are just stopping dead because the cutbacks and the layoffs and the freezing of funding and things like that. So it's going to have a ricochet effect on other things, on other businesses, on the community, local shops. The list goes on, in families, for example. So do not just rely on one contract. And that is the shocking truth about contracts. I'd love to hear your thoughts about what I've just said. Now, like I said, there's so many things that's happened in this week that we can't ignore it. And I'm trying to discuss with you about the consequences for when you're contracting, for example, but there's also best business practices, ensuring that you're not doing anything that's going to affect the contract that you've got, that there's no conflict of interest. Because at the end of the day, we have to be fair and transparent, and so does every person that does have these contracts in place, because otherwise you could get found out. It could be you could think you got away with something, and then a year later it could be, oh, your cousin actually was working in the same department as that contract and they knew about it before other people got to hear about that contract. So they got to know what was, because that cousin spoke to you and said, hey, there's this contract coming up and they're looking for this and they want that and blah, blah, blah. Do you think you'd be able to? And then, that is a conflict. That's a conflict of interest. And you could get found out about it, that, oh, actually your cousin was working in that department and they informed you, so they had a head start above all the other contractors, the suppliers, and they had like inside information. You never want to be in that situation, for example. So like I said to you, that having these contracts, it's all well and good, but you've got to make sure that you're able to deliver. And yes, there's going to be hard times, because running a business is not easy. There's going to be hard times, but as long as you're following your policies and procedures, and you've got the right compliance in place, and that you showed evidence that there's no conflict of interest on your documentation, then you're good to go. You're fine. But like I said to you, there's so many shocking truths about contracts. People think having a contract, you see someone, you see that they're doing really well, and oh, I want that. I'd love to have that. You haven't looked at the steps that person's had to do to get there. They've worked hard for it, for example. They've had to put things forward. And I'm referring to you, the business owner. I'm not referring to anybody else. I'm referring to you, the business owner. So when you're looking at applying for contracts, make sure that you're compliant. Make sure that you've got your policies and procedures and you've got it down pat. Make sure you've got your audits ready before you even start the contract. You get your audit ready. You've got everything all lined up. All staff are compliant. The dates, checks, everything balances up. You've got all the correct insurance in place, and that you've done an audit, and that you've got it signed with another co-worker, for example, to show that nothing was rigged on your behalf. And you, in that contract that you've signed, it would have said, anyway, are you related? Do you know of anyone that works in this department that could bring rise to a conflict? You have to say yes or no, for example. If it's yes, then you have to say what it is and show evidence. You say no, then that's fine. But if they find out years down the line, well, actually, your cousin or sister-in-law or brother-in-law, they're the ones that told you about this contract before other people got to hear about it, then that's not right. So, I wanted to share with you the shocking truths about contracts, because there's so much that's been going on this week about contracts, and I think it's important that that we take this information and we know how to do it correctly, and to support the community. Like Elon Musk, he's been networking with government organizations, for example. You network with your community and see what the needs are in your community. Talk to the people. They're the ones that will tell you what's truly needed. As well as speak with, network with organizations, that can give you the work, for example. Law firms, have events, hold events, there's lots of things you can do. Meet with government organizations, tell them what it is that you're looking to do, and whether there's any way that you can work together, collaborate together, because that is how it should be. Everyone should collaborate together and work together. I explained to you at the beginning, when I did this talk live tonight, that I had 2 men come into my office to threaten me, to say they were going to take my contracts off of me. Contracts can really make people really become greedy, should I say, because they want what you've got. Now, I'm not saying that this is happening with Elon Musk or anything. I'm just letting you know that when the bigger you get, then with contracts, the bigger problems that come up with having those contracts, for example. So you could come across firms that want to either try and buy you out or threaten you so that you sell to them. So I'm explaining to you the shocking truths about contracts, and I hope that that's not putting you off, but I just want you to be aware of it so that if it happens to you, you won't be shocked. You'll be able to deal with it. I was shocked. I felt like, wow, I thought someone's come into my office and threatened me. So that's why my husband had to come in every day with me to make sure I was safe, because I like to work after hours. So then I started to work from home when everyone left. So we all left together, for example. But I just wanted to share that with you because some of you may have experienced this already. I don't know. I'd love to hear whether you did and how you coped with it when it happened to you, if it happened to you. But when you get bigger, you could have companies that will approach you because they want to buy your business, for example. Or you could have a greedy company that want to bully you into selling, for example. But you see, I don't get bullied into selling. I'd rather give things back to a company that I trust. And that's what I did. So you got to hear the shocking truth about contracts. So I hope that you found that helpful today and that you've learned from it. But wow, we've had such a week, and I just pray that we get through into some positivity. And for now, what you can do is you can look at applying for contracts for your organization. If you are a business, then start looking at doing that. Even if you're not a business and you want to start a business, then start looking into these contracts. I do have some links here, playlist as well. You can go through it. But I'd love to hear from you. And there is a link here as well for you to book a free 15-minute appointment online meeting with me. And I can go through, if your business is up and running, I can go through your audit, your staff audit. And also we do specialize in AI automation to make staff members' lives more easier as well, so that you can be, I understand about efficiency and being effective, I really do, but there's a way to do it. I don't believe this way is the right way, for example. So thank you so much, everyone. I hope that you've enjoyed my live tonight, and I look forward to talking to you tomorrow at 7 p.m. UK time. That's 2 p.m. American time. On Friday, I'm going to be going later. Like I said, it will be 7 p.m. American time. That's New York time. So just so that everybody knows that there will be some changes so that I can meet everyone's needs as well. All right, so thank you so much, and I hope you've enjoyed today's live, and I look forward to speaking with you tomorrow. And check out the next video that I'm going to be uploading that I did earlier on today. I hope that you find that helpful as well. Thank you so much, and please do like, subscribe, share, and comment. Tell me what you think about whether you've had experiences with contracts that were shocking. All right, so have a wonderful day. Take care, everyone. Thank you. Bye.